Week 2, the question of visibility and invisibility. Is the legal interpreter visible or invisible? This is a question which haunts each legal interpreter and will cause you to wonder just what to do under different circumstances. We're not talking about a cloak of invisibility which you purchase at the nearest magic shop. We're talking about how intrusive the interpreter is in what is going on around him. The answer to the question is yes, depending on the circumstance. Remember, keep a journal and write something related to this week's topic. Include this information in the discussion forum for class participation. Search the Bible for something related to being visible or invisible and write a brief description. Find a YouTube related to our subject for the week. After watching it, write a review and an evaluation. Remember, each week there is a project which you are expected to complete and post as indicated. This week's project is to watch a TV courtroom show For the People, Matlock, Perry Mason, etc., and report on the different elements in the court proceedings and the difficulty interpreting those elements. You should be reading a book on legal interpreting or a chapter in Fundamentals of Court Interpreting. You're going to write a brief 3 to 5 page summary of the book or chapter and an evaluation. This assignment, as you know, will be due at the end of the course. Add questions to the question board. Remember, you'll get bonus points for each question submitted. If your question is chosen for the final exam, you will get double bonus points. Finally, remember, by the end of the course, you will be expected to have developed a lexicon or glossary where you list the words and corresponding words in your chosen language. Adding to it weekly will help make its final presentation easier. In the courtroom, the interpreter is typically totally invisible. This means that the interpreter's only role is to facilitate conversation. Their role is to faithfully transmit what one party says to the other without interjecting any opinion or perspective. At this point, it is even questionable whether the interpreter should use what is known as dynamic equivalency, although most everyone does, since languages do not communicate well as a word-for-word translation or interpretation. Dynamic equivalency is the art of discovering the closest term in the target language to those found in the source language. This is most often used in colloquial sayings, metaphors, etc. Since interpreting these word for word often produces meaningless phrases, it is imperative that the interpreter be able to convey meaning without losing the heart of what is being said. Apart from these contrivances, most of what is done in the courtroom should render the interpreter invisible. But in a dialogue between the lawyer and client, the interpreter may take on a very visible persona. That is, the interpreter not only interprets words, but also meaning and culture, so that real communication takes place between the two. If the interpreter merely interprets words, then much understanding is lost, and at this point, it is imperative that both parties understand each other explicitly. So there is a time for visibility, but there is also a time to become part of the conversation. Visible in order to help the process get to where it needs to go. Take your cues from those around you. If understanding is not taking place, you might need to take on a more visible role. On the other hand, staying in the interpreter's role and therefore invisible will be important for you as a professional.